I hid from my wife that I was selling my art under a pseudonym and made a million doing it, but now the gallery wants to meet a real artist. I'm 39. I live in Portland, Oregon. I work as an art teacher at high school. My wife, Celeste, is 37. We've been together for 12 years, married for 10. No kids yet. Life is stable. We live in an old house with a wooden porch, and we like coffee, walks in the rain, and old movies. I thought she knew me completely. But there's one thing she doesn't know. I'm an artist. Not the kind of artist who paints in class, but the kind whose paintings sell for tens of thousands, or even a million, but not under my own name. I paint under the pseudonym Lev Tran. Dark, emotional paintings, abstract images of pain, loneliness, hope. No one knows who I am. The gallery in San Francisco that represents me has signed a contract to remain anonymous. They get 30%. I get the rest. The money goes into a Swiss bank account, under a different name. I haven't bought anything for myself. I haven't changed anything about the house. I continue to ride my old bike. I teach. I pay my rent. I live simply. Why do I hide it? Not because I don't trust Celeste, but because one day, early in our marriage, I showed her my work. She said, "It's too dark. It's not you. You're bright, cheerful, kind." And I folded that album, and I never showed it again. And then, a year later, I put one painting online, anonymously. They bought it for $5,000. I didn't believe it. I exhibited it again. It sold, and so it has been 14 years. Now I have $1,270,000 in my account, and not a single person in my life knows who the real Lev Tren is. Until last week, I received a letter from the gallery. "Dear Lev, your new series, Silence, has aroused phenomenal interest. The exhibition in New York will be held in 2 months. Collectors, media, critics, everyone wants to meet the author. We can no longer maintain anonymity. You need to appear, in person, under your artistic name, with a face, with a story." I read it 3 times. I couldn't understand. Is this a victory, or the end? I can't show up as Leo Tren, because then Celeste will find out that I've been lying for 14 years, that I made $1 million without telling her, that I've been living 2 lives. But if I don't show up, they'll find another, or they'll expose me themselves. I sat and looked at the painting I'd painted last week. A black and white canvas. 2 masks. One smiling, the other crying. "Sign me." And in that moment I realized, I can't live in an illusion anymore. I just don't know which truth to start with. The money, the lies, or the fact that I'm not really as bright as she thinks. I couldn't call the gallery. I couldn't write. I couldn't even look at the letter again. I just sat there wondering, did she ever notice? Did she see who I really was? And then I found the diary. Not mine. Hers. An old one, in a dresser drawer, under her socks. I never touched her things. But this time I did. Not on purpose. Just looking for an old photo for school. Date: March 15th, 2010. A year after I stopped showing her my work. He had changed. Not physically, but inside. When I said his paintings were too dark, he smiled and said, "You're right." But I could see something inside him fading. And from that day on, he started drawing only bright flowers, birds, suns, what I like. But it wasn't his. It was for me. Next entry, in a month. Today I found the album. Hidden under the garage floor. Dark paintings. People with empty eyes. Hands reaching through the black canvas. I couldn't take my eyes off him. It was him. Not the one I know, but the real one. Another week later. I can't say I like it. It scares me. But I understand. If I say it's bad, he'll hide it again. And I don't want him to lose himself for me. So I'm silent. Even if it means he lives in 2 worlds. And I live in only one. Last entry. 2 years ago. His work appeared on the internet. Under the name Lev Tren. I recognized the style immediately. When he thought I was asleep, I looked at his gallery. People write, "This is brilliant. It's piercing. It's true." And I think, this is my husband. And he never trusted me. But I don't blame him. I'm afraid that if he finds out what I know, he'll stop painting. And I'll lose him completely. I closed the diary. Couldn't breathe. She knew. Not just suspected. She saw. She read. She watched. And she was silent. Not because she was betrayed. And because she was afraid of losing me. An hour later she came home from work. I was sitting on the porch. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I read your diary," I said. She fell silent. She wasn't scared. She wasn't accusing. She just said, I know you're Lev Tran. And you didn't say anything? No, she said. Not because she didn't want to, but because she was afraid you'd stop. What do you say? If she saw it, it's not a secret. And without a secret, there's no creativity. But I've been lying to you for 14 years. You didn't lie, she said. You were silent. Sometimes silence is a way to survive. And I didn't want you to stop surviving. And the money. I saw the stories, she said. But I didn't ask. Not because I wasn't interested, but because I knew, if you want to say it, you will. And if you don't, then you're not ready. I couldn't speak. I just looked at her. Why aren't you crying? Because I love you, she said. Not your image, not your work, but you. Even when you don't show me yourself. Especially then. And now you have to decide, she said. Do you no longer want to be Lev Tran? Are you ready to become one in front of me? I sat and understood. It's not about money. It's not about fame. It's about whether I can be whole in front of the one I love. And in that moment I realized, I can no longer live two lives. Only one. And I had to decide which one. I couldn't put it off any longer. 2 days after talking to Celeste, I called the Morgan Estate Gallery in New York. Clarice answered, a curator I'd worked with for 14 years. Never seen her. Just a voice. And emails. A lion, she said. We thought you wouldn't answer. I can't show up, I said. Not the way you want me to. Why? You've reached the top. Collectors, museums, everyone wants to know who you are. This isn't just an exhibition. This is an event. But I can't risk my life, I said. My real life. You mean my wife? I paused. We did a little investigation, she said. Not because we didn't trust them, but because when someone makes $1 million under a pseudonym, it raises questions. We didn't find anything criminal, but we did find you. Alex Rayner, a drawing teacher in Portland. And, yes, we realized that you were Lev Tran. I couldn't breathe. Why are you telling me this? Because we don't want to blackmail you. She said, we want you to understand. The choice is yours. But if you don't show up in person at the opening, we can't continue to represent you. The rules of the game have changed. The world wants to see the artist's face. And we can't hide the truth any longer. And if I say no, then we'll return all the paintings. We'll stop the sale. And you'll no longer be Lev Tran. For no one. I hung up the phone. Not because I was finished, but because I couldn't hear anymore. They found me. Not because I was careless, but because being a genius in today's world is not having a secret. It's having a brand. And now I had to decide. Or lose everything I've created. Or lose what I have. An hour later, I said to Celeste, the gallery found me. They know I'm Lev Tran. She wasn't surprised. I knew this would happen. So what now? Now you have to decide, she said. Do you want to be Lev Tran to the world? Or remain the Alex I know you to be? And you? I'll be with you, she said. Even if you decide never to paint again. But I don't want you to lose yourself for me. I've seen it happen before. And that was the worst thing I'd ever seen in our marriage. What if I show up? If the world finds out? Then the world will find out, she said. And I'll find out if you're finally ready to be whole. I sat there wondering, is this the end? Or the beginning? Will I lose her when she sees the truth? Will I lose myself if I stay in the shadows? A week later, I opened the garage. Long closed. There were all my works that I'd never exhibited. Dark, deep, alive. I took one out. The one called Face Without a Mask. I put it in the living room. What is this? Celeste asked. It's me, I said. Not the teacher. Not the man who paints flowers for his wife. But the one who lived inside me for 14 years. She looked at the painting. For a long time. Then she said, she is beautiful. And in that moment I understood. I should not have been afraid of her reaction. I should have been afraid of my fear. And I decided, I will appear. Not as Lev Tran, but as Alex. Who paints under this name. And who is finally ready to say, this is me. And I am not hiding. I arrived in New York the day before the opening. Not to the hotel the gallery had booked, but to a small apartment in Manhattan that I had rented under a different name. Not because I was afraid, but because I wanted time. Time to think. Time to figure out who I was now. Clarice was waiting in the gallery. The space had been transformed. The walls were black. The lights were dim. My paintings were arranged not as exhibits, but as a story. From darkness to a ray of light. The Silence series occupied the center wall. One painting was special. The title, The One No One Sees. I had painted it when I was thinking about myself. and now the whole world was watching it. Are you ready? Clarice asked. I don't know, I said. But I came. We publish an announcement, she said. Lev Tran will appear in person. There will be a lot of people. The media, critics, collectors. They are waiting for the story, the truth. And if my truth disappoints them, then it is not your truth, she said. And the mask. She handed me the text for the speech. About the creative path. About inspiration. About the darkness that gives birth to light. I read it and said, I will not say this. What? I will tell the truth. The one you do not know. The one I have been hiding. She looked at me for a long time. Then she nodded. Then they will remember you forever. Or destroy you. Maybe, I said. But I can't live in an illusion anymore. Opening night. The gallery is packed. The lights, the noise, the photographer's shouts, the rustling of microphones. I stood in the corner, in a simple suit, no tie. Not like a star, like a human being. When they invited me on stage, the silence fell in a second. Thank you for coming, I said. My name is Alex Rayner. I'm not Lev Tran. Lev Tran is me. Silence. I'm an art teacher at a high school in Portland. I teach kids how to draw the sun, trees, smiles, what is considered beautiful. But when I'm alone, I draw what I can't put into words. Pain, loneliness, questions. And this is Lev Tran. I created this image because I once showed my wife real paintings. She said, that's not you. And I folded the album and never showed it again. But I continued to paint, under a different name, in secret. And in 14 years, I made $1 million from it. I didn't buy anything for myself. I didn't change my life. I continued to teach, living simply. But last week I found out that my wife knows, that she saw my paintings, that she read my diaries, that she looked at my work on the internet. And she kept quiet, not because she was betrayed, but because she was afraid that I would stop being myself. And I understand now. I didn't lie to her. I lied to myself. I thought I was protecting her by hiding the truth. But in reality, I was hiding myself. And that was the biggest betrayal, not of her, but of myself. So, I am not Lev Tran, who came from the shadows. I am Alex, who has finally come into the light. And I will no longer live two lives. I will be one, honest, unfinished, but real. I sat down. There was no applause. At first. Then, slowly, one by one, people stood up, becoming, and applauded. Not loudly, but sincerely. Clarice came over. It wasn't what I expected, she said. But it was what the world needed to hear. I didn't answer. I looked at the painting, the face without a mask. And in that moment I realized. I had lost nothing. I had found myself. I didn't fly home right away. I stayed for 2 more days. Not for interviews. Not for meetings. But for myself. I walked around Manhattan. I sat in the park. I looked at people who didn't know me, but had seen my paintings. I could hear conversations. Is this the artist who turned out to be a teacher? Yes. And he said everything at the opening. I cried. And I thought, what if we all live under masks? I didn't interfere. I just listened. And I understood. The story went beyond art. It became about something more. About fear. About lies. About the choice to be yourself. On the 3rd day, I arrived in Portland. I didn't meet anyone. I left the airport, got in a taxi, looked at the familiar streets. Nothing had changed. But I have changed. The house is the same. The old porch. The flowers that Celeste planted. The bike in the garage. And she is on the porch. With coffee. Without a smile. But with eyes full of expectation. Hello, I said. Hello, she said. I watched your performance. And you were honest, she said. And that's the most important thing. And you. I'm proud of you, she said. Not because you became famous, but because you finally became yourself. And you didn't betray me. You came back. I sat down next to you. I didn't hug you right away. I just said, I'm sorry I hid for so long. You didn't hide from me, she said. You were hiding from yourself. And I was just waiting for you to find your way back. And now you're home, she said. And I want you to paint. Not like Lev Tran. Not like Alex Rayner, the teacher. But like you. Someone who can paint both the sun and the darkness. And not be afraid that someone will say, that's not you. A week later, I opened the garage. Not for work. For an exhibition. I put my paintings on the walls. Not all of them. Just the ones I never showed. Celeste helped. Didn't comment. Just placed them. And this one? She asked, pointing to the painting Woman Waiting. It showed a silhouette by a window. A shadow. Light from within. "It's you," I said. "You waited. And didn't give up." She looked at the painting for a long time. Then she said, "I always knew you would come back. I just didn't know how. And now I see you whole," she said. And that's enough. A month later, a local gallery invited me to an exhibition. Not under a pseudonym. Not as Lev Tran. As Alex Rayner. Teacher and artist. At the opening, I said briefly, "I'm not a hero. I'm a person who was afraid of myself for a long time. But love, patience, and art helped me find my way back. Thank you for seeing that." After the event, a boy came up to me, about 14 years old. "I paint too," he said. "But my parents say, this is not serious. But I've seen your paintings. And I know, this is serious." "Yes," I said. "And you have the right to be yourself, even if the world says otherwise." He smiled and left. I went home. Celeste was waiting. "Did you change anyone today?" she asked. "Maybe," I said. "But most importantly, I changed myself. And in that moment I realized, love is not about being perfect. It is about being whole. And I was whole at last. And every morning, when I teach children to draw the sun, I think, this is me. And I am not hiding anymore.